man's testosterone levels decrease when they're around children. So actually their aggression is kept on a leash, in order to protect the offspring.
So is there any truth to the idea that we really marry our mother or our father? Why do we do this, and what does it mean?
I have definitely seen that. And what happens is our relationships with our parents are the basis of all of our relationships from there on. And so because of that, in that relationship, we have that imprint of what's our challenges, what's our life lesson all about, and how do we work through it. We work through it through various different challenges. And I ended up writing a book on different body types to help you identify what those life lessons are and what those challenges are.
That question is pretty much the meat and potatoes of psychotherapy. We deal with that on a daily basis, and as we know, it starts out very differently. When we're on that hormonal dopamine cocktail, everything looks very easy and we want to do all the different things, and then suddenly things change when we come off the drugs, and then we are facing all the differences. And then normally when it grinds down is when we're hitting that kind of layer underneath that comes from these early templates of our relationships. And the interesting thing is we don't just internalize, let's say, a figure, a mother or father, but we internalize a whole relational template. And with that, there's included defenses, our way to react to stress, and so all that gets really into internal working models. And then it becomes interesting and difficult, and we will work it out in a therapy.
Building on what Hans just said is that then it also goes back to those early attachment styles that we develop in the early days of our caregiving. And the quality of caregiving is so critically important, corresponding with the brain development that's going on through those first few years. And that's imprinted, so to speak, on our limbic emotional brain in ways we're not even aware of. And it oftentimes doesn't surface until we get into our adult intimate relationships. And then the problems fly.
Well, this reminds me of my marriage about 5 or 6 years. I remember my libido was starting to drop. And being a therapist, I understood that I was at that place where the high dopamine levels of the newness and the challenge, all of that had started to settle down. And then also with children, suddenly my wife in this very nurturing mode to my kids, it was automatically my projection was now onto her. My feelings about my mother were starting to move towards her. And this isn't a conscious thing. It's just kind of an automatic thing. And one of the ways you can know it's happening is, particularly for a man or for a woman, is your libido goes. Because it's not appropriate to have, I didn't have sexual feelings towards my mother. So suddenly I'm in that relationship of all this sweet love and all the nurturing and so forth. So I figured out a little solution for that, which is, again, for me it was easy because I don't have resentment towards my mother. If you're holding things against your parent, then you start holding things against your partner. In my case, I didn't have a lot of mother issues. I dealt with my father issues, but with my mom, I would just call her up on the phone. I thought, I'm going to do an experiment. I'm going to call her up on the phone and just let her start talking for a while and tell her something about my life. And then she would start giving me motherly advice. And I can only take so much. I say, that's a good idea, Mom. Thanks so much. And then I always sort of feel kind of a frustration, my mother telling me what to do, and I'm a grown man. And then I get off the phone, and I go have great sex with my wife. Because what I was doing was now putting those feelings of my mother towards my mother, which freed me to see my wife as my wife. That was a fun thing.
That's very good.
It's also interesting that because you're so much interested in hormonal levels of men and women, that man's testosterone levels decrease when they're around children. So actually their aggression is kept on a leash, in order to protect the offspring. So,
well, let me give you some more updated advice on that, but our insight, because what you said is absolutely true. We now see that when men get married, their testosterone levels drop, whether they don't have children or not. And that's, again, coming back to hormones, which is when you love someone, that hormone oxytocin, the bonding hormone, gets produced. And that's going to lower a man's testosterone. Holding a little child will also produce it as well, but making love to your wife produces it. So that's why we fall asleep afterwards and often need to pull back away to sort of rebuild the testosterone. And it's important for us to understand that so that men have room to get close and then back away. Men are from Mars, women are from Venus. That's one of the main concepts in there, is to understand men's tendency in terms of attachment theory is to attach, which produces estrogen and oxytocin. But men need 10 to 20 times more testosterone. So then we have to detach, take some time for ourselves, and that will rebuild the testosterone. And then we want to attach again. So we go back and forth. So that's basically the in and out of sex.
So while the saying that you marry your mother sounds a little funny, sounds like there's a lot of truth to it. Sounds like we do reach out for relationships that help us solve some deep wounds and some relationship standards we may not have quite understood. So if you find that you're attracted to someone that has qualities like your mom or your dad, you're not crazy. Sounds like it's pretty normal. And if you have questions about it, ask these people.